Okay, welcome to this live stream tonight. We're doing something a little bit different for the channel. I thought, as many of you who've seen any of my content know, of late I've been using the Reason Rack quite a bit from Propellerhead. And it occurred to me that I've been using the rack since it was released in the subscription format, but I hadn't actually opened up the main Reason application. And then I was thinking, I wonder when the last time I opened up this application was. And it's been a long time. I've been a big fan of Reason for many years, but I don't use it. I rarely have used it since I owned one of the early versions. And that version was like 2.5. And so it's been a long time since I've used this. In fact, I think it was when I first, maybe it was when I was teaching at Appalachian State University in North Carolina, Appalachian State. And I think that was the last time, because then I moved to Denver and became a really heavy Pro Tools slash Logic user. Pro Tools because of the university. I was teaching Pro Tools and using it in sessions, and Logic for all of my creative stuff. And that would have been like 2006 was when I first came here. And so the last time I used Reason was really in North Carolina, and that would have been 2004 to 2005. And so it's been a long time. And I have Reason Rack. I've been paying for it now since they've done this, and I love the sounds in Reason. I missed some of them. Some of the ones that have been there since the very beginning, I still use on a regular basis. I've been tracking some of the new instruments, like the vocoder. That effect in Reason is so good, and some of the other creative tools I've been really getting into. But I've been running into some issues with the rack version of Reason in Logic, and things like latency and just overall like performance of some of the tools hasn't been stellar. And so I thought, you know what? I want to actually open up Reason and actually test out some of the functionality in there. And so and this is quite literal, about 15 minutes ago, I opened up Reason 12.6. For the first time in almost 2 decades, I've opened up Reason, the application. When I got the rack version, I had no interest. I said, you know what? I just want the rack to work in Logic. And so that's where this whole thing started. And so I've opened it up. The only thing I've done in the past 15 minutes was figure out how to get sound out my interface on channels 3 and 4, because that's how my interface is set up for live streaming. I send everything out 3 and 4. It goes into 1 and 2, and then can go right out streaming. The OBS application is super limited in terms of audio inputs and outputs for streaming. And so you have to set it up a very specific way to keep the latency super low. Anyway, everything condensed. What I want to do tonight is actually just fumble through a little bit with Reason, see which things I remember, see which things make sense. I've seen some screenshots and other people's videos, but very little. And I think maybe if some of you are Reason users who are watching this want to chime in the chat and say, you're doing that wrong, then that would be perfect, because I literally have no clue on some of the things and what to do. What I remember, the rack, and pushing tab to see the back of the rack. That literally, that's one of the main things I remember from this whole thing, are the cables. And of course, we have those in the rack version of Reason that works inside Logic. We have that in there, so we can actually see those cables and do things, but it's certainly not as extensive as what we're going to be able to do in here. So, okay, awesome, right? First things first, the navigating, expanding things is relatively simple, right? You click on little arrows and it makes it go bigger. When I opened this up, it had a master section already in place. I don't know if that's like part of just a template. I'm assuming you could delete all that stuff and have a totally empty one, but it looks like right now that's what came when I opened this for the first time. I didn't open anything specific. The browser came open, which was kind of nice. And of course, having used the rack now with Logic for a number of, I don't know, it's like been a year or two. I can't even remember when the new Reason Plus was really released, but it feels like a little while now. So I'm used to a lot of the instruments. That part I would say I'm more familiar with. I've seen some of the new ones as they've gotten released. But the last time I had used Reason, we didn't have most of these. I think we had the Dr. Octo Rex loop player. We certainly had, let's go down, the Maelstrom grain table synthesizer, the MIDI out device we had. The NNXT advanced sampler, the NN19 digital sampler. We had the Redrum drum computer, the Subtractor analog synthesizer, and those are the only ones I remember. I don't remember having any of. Maybe I'm wrong. But that's just my memory. Those are the ones I remember. So having Subtractor. Oh, I can double click and just open it up, which is kind of nice. And of course, monophonic subtractive synthesis tool. One of my first software synthesizers that I ever used. Brings back a lot of memories. It looks pretty much unchanged, maybe a higher resolution in terms of the graphics. But all the normal stuff there. So 2 oscillator monosynth. It's always interesting to have monosynths in the software realm. It's like I understand it in the hardware realm, but in the software realm, I don't think it would take much for them just to hit a little button. Oh, maybe there is. Actually, you can. And it may have always been like that, but it always starts in mono mode. So there are some instruments out there which are just mono ones, no matter what you have. But this one, someone should tell me in the chat if it's always been like that. But looks like we can go up to 99 polyphony. Cool. Again, I don't remember. I feel like back then it may have been a true mono synth. Let's take it to 16 voices, right? Okay, cool. So let's go to our effects tab here for a second. A number of these things are new here as well. The M-Class stuff was here before. I don't think like the channel dynamics or channel EQ were. Ooh, the red-faced EQ was here before. Oh, there's a ton. I have not messed with all of these in Logic because Logic has so many things in there already. And then these VSTs are things that I have installed. So there's a lot of stuff for my own collection. Everything seems to be working. I haven't tested it out, but it loaded. Scream for distortion. I'm assuming I can just drag that out. Yep, I remember Scream. I don't know if it was always Scream 4 or if it feels In my head, I always wanted to say Scream 3, but it could be Scream 4 was how it was all along. Okay, cool. A little bypass button, I remember that. Saying that has never changed. Let's delete this. Delete device. Okay, cool. Let's put just like a delay on there. Oh, I put it. Interesting. So I drug it out. I don't know what the difference is between, this is all new, this header area. Let's drag that stuff in there. Mix channel. So we'll have to look at that. Because it looks like this could be part of this channel up here. Okay, so that's new. Having things that go out. Obviously, well, maybe not obvious. For those of you who have never used the early versions of Reason, we didn't have a mixer. That's one of the new things for me is having all the other functionality. In fact, we didn't have the ability to record audio. It was just a MIDI rack. So we had the sequencer and the rack, and those were the two things we had. Boson says, love the sometimes really intricate combinator patches and Reason, a feature I really miss in Logic. So Logic doesn't have anything nearly as elegant as combinator patches. That was maybe the last new thing I saw in Reason before I went off to other things. So we did have combinator patches. It was kind of like the shiny new thing right at the end of my time with it before, like I said, I went on to something else. So let's explore one other thing down here, which would be the players. Let's do the baseline generator. I'm just dropping it in here. Let's close the mixer for a second and the sequencer. So just like with Reason, Rack, and Logic, you have to have the transport to have activated to make this work, unless you hit the run key. And this thing is killer. I wish we had something like this in Logic. This little matrix in the middle where you do the on beat and off beat and you set a bunch of parameters and then you can move between this. I mean, I haven't explored this as much as I'd like to, partially because these things in Logic have a slight amount of latency to them that I can't ever get rid of. And so I just haven't used them as much. But they're incredible. Right? I mean, that's so cool. Okay, so we have this thing set up. We have the generator going to subtractor. Because we're in this mode, it looks like we don't have to actually do any CV routing. It's going to automatically be done with things next to it. That's normal, or was normal back then. We didn't have to do much. The audio is still being routed with cables. Cool. Utilities. So audio track, the combinator, the line level mixer 6 to 2, and the sequencer were there before. I don't know, but I think the mixer 14x2 was there. The pulsar was not. I can't remember the RPG8. I bet you it was. And then the Spider audio merger splitter and CV merger, those were around. So a lot of this stuff is the same as before. Cool. So then let's look at the mixer for a minute, which has a very SSL kind of feel to it. Is there a way to zoom? I don't know if there's a way to zoom in here or not. But yeah, it has a definite the master compression has an SSL feel to it, and the knobs a little bit. And I think I remember, I don't know if that's the case or not, but I think I remember, it being that it's modeled off of that. I don't know. So input, dynamics built in, EQ built in, some inserts, 8 sends, which is enough for most people in any universe. Is there a stereo widener? That's kind of interesting. So these are all things that I would be using on a day-to-day basis, right? Looks like I can go out to have a spectrum view. Okay, so let me turn off that click. Looking at the EQ. EQ is disabled. There's that. EQ on. Oh, I guess right there. Interesting. But I don't know how to, with this thing off. Weird. I don't know how to turn it on and off right from there without opening that thing. Guess I'll figure it out. But I wouldn't necessarily need to use those little knobs. Let's see if I can use some modifier. Oh, modifiers to change the Q setting, which is nice. Although that's a pretty wide Q. And it has to be option click to set. Okay. E mode. There we go. Who in the world still puts limits on frequency bands and equalizers? Consoles do. But that is stupid for digital. I don't care if you're mimicking something or not. Don't put a limit on where you can move your bands. I mean, come on. I guess if you're mimicking something, that's fine. And then we have inserts. Is there a... Oh, there's a phase invert button on it. Okay. I mean, how many of us in Logic wishes we have a invert phase button, right? We can, looks like maybe change some of the dynamic signal path. Filters to sidechain. I'd have to experiment. I think there's definitely reasons for adding sidechaining right there on the channel strip. Okay. That's a lot of information in a small little window. I don't know of any way right off the top of my head here. Options, let's see. I don't, application zoom. Well, that's one way. Looks like. Let's just go to 160 or something. Way better. Okay, old man eyes saves the day, right? Okay, so let's close the mixer for a second. Add another instrument track. And let's see, redrum radical keys. Oh, that's weird. I didn't want it to be inside there. Weird. So that just put it. I might not have to actually. I don't know the best way to create any of this stuff is my problem. And now that I've zoomed in, it's like too hard. I complain about it being too small, and then I complain about it being too big. Yeah, I don't know why. I've got two mix channels. This is totally confusing. I'm sure there's like something super obvious about it, right? But I started by creating a track down here and said, give me radical keys. But it didn't put it into a new sequencer track. I'm going to have to go back out to the zoom that's not so zoom because oof. So it just put that with the other one, which I'm going to delete. Mix channel. Ah. But I can't get that to play. Oh man, this is a mess. I can't. This is the part that is really frustrating. Let's do it this way. Radical keys and pull it out here. It's still dumping it in there. Is that a bug? That doesn't seem like that's the way this should be working. It's literally just throwing stuff. But I pulled it above it and it works. I don't get it. That part. So let's get rid of some of this stuff that I added in. Okay, so that's back to normal. Instruments, sequencer. I can't just double click to bring it in. Let's add it right above it. Now it's showing up and it even added its own mixer track. So dragging it on top, I guess, is the thing. Did we lose? Oh, I muted it. I don't know if I like how hard it is to see some of those. Okay, so let's actually try to record something in here. Stop. Does that go back to the beginning? We have a 4-bar loop. Turn on the pre-count. Let's see if it overlaps or what. Yeah, it overlapped. Let's I just double clicked on that and it opened it up. Some of that stuff, thank goodness, works as you imagine. What's the shortcut for going backwards? Okay, so there's a lot of windows. There's a lot of windows. Let's see how easy this is to quantize. It says edit mode. Okay, that's that. Snap to grid. Okay. Says there's a quantize in the contextual menu. So let's undo the quantize for a second and see if there's a quantize window or something else. I don't know. There's automation. I remember we had decent automation before. Not terrific, but decent. I mean, I feel like there should be... Let's see. I feel like there should be some real easy quantization here. Let's do... I mean, it's just a menu thing. It looks like it's going to do the same. Is there no, like, menu to help me quantize this? So we have a quantized setting down here. I'm assuming that I wonder if that's destructive, or if I go to 8th, if it, yeah. Man, I don't remember the quantization being so bad. So we have this groove button, which I don't. Oh, that looks like a manual. The regroove mixer. I'm never going to be able to like guess what all that does just by looking at it. Sweet. Manual. Okay. So we have the sustained, the velocity, all that pops up, but not very good or in-depth quantization. Now, do we need really in-depth quantization? No, I don't think so. I don't use it that in-depth in Logic, but I do like to have it be adjustable really easily, like turn it on or turn it off really easily. Here's some stuff. What is this? So this must be groove stuff. I just clicked right here. Let's mute. What is the X? No, I don't want to do that. So let's do, let's see, oh, those are all, play it cold. Okay, I'm going to have to figure out what any of that does, because that none of those seem to make a difference when I was choosing them. That made a difference, I guess. Okay, so sequencer seems pretty antiquated. This looks and feels a lot like what I remember almost 20 years ago, without a lot of change. Now the groove stuff is different, but I'm not gonna do any, audio recording, but I want to see what the audio track looks like. That's me talking. Actually, that's the talkback mic, I think, on my device. Let's see. Check 1. So that's my actual microphone. There's a tuner. Blah. Okay, so tuner built in. That's kind of nice. Okay. So recording feels really straightforward. Let's see. Audio track. Check. Yeah. So it's over there. Easy to put on all of the channel strip settings, EQ, compression. And those are just the mixer ones. I mean, I'm assuming for something like the keys here, if we look at the rack, and we get like an effect, we could do like, what do we want here? Like the rotor speaker, right? So you can add all the effects in the rack. Let's see if they show up here as inserts. No, I don't. So it's like totally separate. No, they're here. It's just not showing up there. So they show up. It's the rack. Good to know. But let's see, just as an example here with the audio effects, chorus flanger, inside this. Check, check. I think that is. Check, check, check. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So putting the things in the rack on the audio are, affecting that in terms of monitoring even on a real-time thing. Cool. Boson, I don't know what's different. I do know the extensions. Some of these are extra because you get more with the Reason Plus subscription than you do with the standard version. And so there are going to be more things in here than even what somebody has if they have like the standard version. But then all of my other instruments and things are showing up as well. So Tigra says, were you just using Reason in rewire mode for the last 19 years? No, actually. So I said this at the very beginning of the stream. When Reason released Reason Plus with the rack version that works as a plugin, I have been using that. I've been using that since Propeller had released it, inside Logic. But that doesn't come with the mixer. It doesn't come with the sequencer. It doesn't come with the transport or any of the routing or anything like that. I've just used the rack version since they released it. But I haven't used Reason itself in like about 19 years. And so that's what I'm in here just seeing what I like and what I don't like. And so far, I got to tell you, there was a reason I really left and went to something like Logic or even Pro Tools, or for a little while, used Cubase and Nuendo. Studio One works more like Logic. Cakewalk, Sonar. Sonar was one I used for a little bit for a period of time. I was experimenting for a couple years, trying to figure out which workstation I liked the best. Reason, too, was one of my first. And back then, this is a true story. My brother, I won't say which of my brothers, but one of my brothers gave me a pirated copy of Reason. And then that was when I was a student. And then I got my first full-time professorship, and I bought the full version. So I don't feel bad about saying I had a pirated version for a minute, because then I bought the full thing of 2.5 or whatever it was. And, I loved it. I really identified with it, but it didn't do audio recording at that time. It was just a MIDI tool, a MIDI sequencer with sounds and effects. And so what I went for the other applications was the audio recording, right? I wanted to do everything. They've since added audio recording. I don't know the full ins and outs, but it's right here. It works. And so it's here. I like the mixer feel. It's like I wish Logic had a better set of basic tools in the mixer. I am going to show you one thing here. Look, you can move mixer channels without having to do anything in the sequencer. That's better than Logic right there. But there's too many things that are quirky about this. I was trying a few minutes ago just to pull things out and make a new channel. The add track button down here in the sequencer wasn't working. I don't know what the deal with that is. It could be a bug or something. I had said add track. I wanted a new track. But now it works. I don't know what's going on. Why didn't it work before? Go back and watch the video. You'll see I'm not making it up. Oh my gosh. The delete key works on that one. But I tried. It was like stuck. It wouldn't do it. Okay, cool. Too much happening. There's too much happening. And I wonder if I can do... you can do two screens. So I saw this when I first opened stuff up. Let's see. Detach main mixer. Cool, right? I can bring that over to my second monitor, which is what I would do if I was using this. Because it's too much. This looks a lot like the original Reason now. I didn't want to move that around. I just wanted to change that. This feels a lot more like the original Logic or Reason in some ways. A little different, but similar. I love the graphic part of it, which is not the right thing to love, because we don't need things to look fancy in order for them to sound good. It's such a misnomer, but it's interesting. So on my second screen now, I've got the mixer. On the first one, I've got the rack and the sequencer. Cool, right? So you need two monitors for this, is my suspicion. But I don't like this layout. You have to have multiple monitors, or to separate this and just, so we could do this thing where it's like, we do the detached mixer, right? And then I just go between these two screens like I would do in Pro Tools or something. So I go back and forth. That's not bad. I could do that, I guess, a little bit. I'm not sure about the whole start at the right side of the screen for this. But we'll see how that is. F5. What is that? Maybe my F keys aren't set up. Oh, there's voiceover. Okay. Samya Buka. What are the black parts? Empty space. The black parts are empty space for if I add more things. So for instance, if we add a bunch of new tracks, which the function is working now, right? Then you'll see it build in more here with the mixer. So I'm assuming most people wouldn't just be adding one thing after another. What they would do is create a template, and it would look more full from the beginning. But right now it looks like a Euro rack, you know what I mean? Someone who started a Euro rack but only put in 5 modules. So hard to say exactly what we're looking at here, but I don't know if there's a way to like fill this out. Let's do this. Let's go in the browser for a second. Song samples. There's a showcase. Those are patches though. I don't know. I guess there's song samples, but which are... That's not like an actual project. Open demo song. That's what I want. So there are demo songs like Logic or other things. Now I'm not going to push play on this I don't want to be demonetized or something. But this is an example. Even if I go full screen with this, you're still going to have black space over there. I mean, we don't have to go full screen. We can just go the size of the mixer, I guess. It's pretty, right? And then here's all of the regions, audio files and MIDI files and so forth. Let's look at the rack. So you have multiple, you can do side-by-side racks. Probably add a whole nother one over here if we want to. I don't know though. Yeah, so we have 3 of them in a row. I mean, that's pretty cool, right? That's an interesting window. Look at all this stuff in here. What is this one here? The synchronous time effects modulator. That's pretty cool. The dual arpeggio grain sample manipulator. I mean, there's a lot of really cool tools in here that I don't use all that much, because I kind of reach for the same things that I would used to reach for, and I do go for some new things, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff to this. And there's some, I just wish, instead of having a mixer, right? Instead of adding the mixer functionality, I feel like they could have just kept it with the racks and the sequencer, and then integrate some levels and automation and things into the rack, instead of having a whole nother place, instead of having a whole nother window that we have to worry about, right? As cool as this window is, I think we probably could have done more with and simplify it by doing more in here with the racks. Which brings me back to, am I going to be switching to this for future projects? I don't think so. Partially because even though the MIDI stuff in Logic has some weaknesses, even just spending 10 minutes in here, I can already tell that the Reason sequencer is almost identical, besides some of the groove functionality it looks like, to what I was using 20 years ago. It hasn't changed. Now, that's only partially true. We do have some MIDI effects and things, but I don't think it's going to get me closer to what I want for performance and editing than I am going to be with Logic. And the groove functionality in Logic with the groove source and destination with just a star and a checkbox. A lot of the MIDI transformation and stuff, I just may not know enough, but at the same time, I should be able to come in and figure some of that stuff out a little faster. I can't even find, a way to get to like some sort of advanced quantization in here. Boson, I think I agree a little bit. I don't know if I agree or not. This to me feels like me sitting in front of our SSL on campus, right? If you like sitting in front of like a big solid state Logic console, this is going to feel right at home. I mean, it has all the same lack of information with just like the single circle meters. It has all of the rest of it feels very similar. So if you like that, then you're going to sit down with this and be like, okay, this is like the sort of chaos my mind can really wrap itself around. And so in that way, for me, it feels like coming home a little bit. And it's nice to have hopefully what sounds like a good compressor and a good EQ on every channel without having to always add stuff. So I can work without having to come through and add like an effect or something all the time. That I like. And Samia Buka says, very Windows-like. I tend to possibly agree, especially some of these like little buttons and things, I mean, it's like, it does kind of feel that way a little bit. I'm not going to lie. So there is that bit to it, but I think they're pushing the boundary of creative tools in a way that Apple has over time just purchased some new creative tools, but they're not developing a lot of new creative tools themselves. If that makes sense. I think that's a true way of looking at it. Let me see if there was, I want to see. Anything else that I really wanted to look at. I need to take this for a drive and actually make a song. That's really what I need to do. Because you don't really know much until you actually do that part of it. So much of this stuff I don't need. Or it's like not important, I guess. I don't know. Export loop, export songs, save beat map. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else. So for me, things I'm missing. They have drums, not like a drummer track like in Logic, but they have a lot of drum functionality. Cool. I don't think they have a lot of the stuff like flex pitch, flex time, incorporated into the samples and things. It's like such an integral part of what Logic does right now that it really stands out. Pro Tools doesn't really have that. Studio One doesn't have that. I don't think this really has it. Ableton has versions that are really good, but it's not the same. Like very few programs have that flex thing integrated so profusely through all of the tools, and I use that all the time. So for me, I need that functionality here, and I don't see it right off the top of the list. Dr. Octorex is definitely true. And then another comment lately, you try Pro Tools. I feel its simplicity and limitations help creativity. If you're not doing MIDI stuff, you might as well be using something like Pro Tools. It's so true. I mean, there's none of these tools that are bad. You just have to find the one that speaks to you. And this brings back a lot of memories and a little bit of like, I don't know how I would do what I need to do in this tool, which is why I use one tool that I can do everything in, that I know. It's like I know Logic as well as anybody. And so it certainly is not something I'm going to just leave easily. I love this. I love this part of this software. I love having all of these units. I mean, this speaks to me in a way that I wish every program would. And I think Logic does to a certain degree with some things. The MIDI effects in Logic speak to me like this. I love opening up the environment and being like, okay, this is cool. I can do something totally nerdy in here that nobody else, very few people can do, right? That speaks to me. But what really speaks to me is being able to say, I have an idea in my head. I want to make it. I can do that in like a short amount of time. From thought to product. I can't do that in something else yet. I mean, maybe in Pro Tools with the right tools. Probably FL Studio, because I've used FL Studio over the years more than Reason. But even that, I would have to like sit down for a day first. Okay, I think we've hit the end of this experiment. Am I leaving Logic for Reason? If you've made it this far in the video, rest assured, it's cool. I will continue to use Reason as the rack in Logic, but not switching away until they add a few things. Okay, talk to you later. Bye.